Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Teams Gone Wild. This is my friend Jordan, who's missing in action right now, and he runs a team in Colorado. And for those of you that don't know me, my name is Siri, like the iPhone, and I run a team here in California in San Diego. And so the the idea around this came from how can we help people to, kind of realize what it's like to run a team, how to start a team, what are some of the pains and the wins and just different things like that so that we can mastermind together and figure out how we can help everybody out there to do this whole team thing. So with that being said, who do we have on here? Peter, you and I haven't actually like met, like, you know what I mean? I think we've said hello on uh what what is that thing? Marco Polo that the guys love.
Yeah. Yeah, we've
Yeah.
internet dated a little bit. That's about it.
Yeah. So let's kind of go through and just see where everybody's at and who everybody is and stuff like that too, and see if we can open it up that way. Peter, tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about you. Yeah.
Yeah. So KW for 12 years and the Evil Empire at Coldwell Banker just prior to that for a few years. But after 12 years looking for something different for my team, I have two teams. I have both residential and commercial. Residential team last year just shy of 50 million. There's three of us in production and three of us on staff. And commercial team volume was down last year, but still good volume for us. There it's more about number of units than it is about volume at the end of the day. But loving it, man. Absolutely. I'm really buying into the whole building your tree. We've got 51 people. I got here in August. We've got 51 people working on a team of 11 today.
Siri, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
So
You
yeah.
look like you're in a closet.
You see where I'm at?
Actually, it looks like he's in a wine, like a winery.
Yeah.
I can't hear anything.
Oh, okay. So Peter, continue. I'm very curious about you because I am.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Like I said, the downline is really important to me. Like we've been building it here. When I got to we're in Raleigh, North Carolina. When we got here, there were 14 people in the triangle, and that was it. And I didn't know any of them. And now we're pushing 70 since August.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, yeah. So, and then again, you have a team of how many? How many? It's you, three in production, you said?
Yeah, three in production, three on staff, and my dog.
And your dog.
Those are important.
Yeah.
Yes. Liv has her dog.
That's my assistant.
Yeah, she rings a bell when she needs stuff. Awesome. Well, it looks like we have Colton on here.
Hello.
Colton,
So
good
sorry
morning.
about that.
No worries. No worries. And I think Jordan's still trying to struggle to get on with his sound and stuff like that. But anyway, so let's kind of get started here a little bit. So Colton, thank you for joining us today. And Colton, you and I met a couple years ago, and you were speaking. You had an event that you held, and you were speaking, and then you invited me up to do that. And I think it was actually one of my first kind of like speaking things too. So we were all like nervous together, right?
Yes, we were.
Yeah, you were sweating bullets with me. So, anyways, but that's when I met you, and I was just like, man, this guy is amazing. And so when we met, I think you had a fairly smallish team from where you are now.
Yeah.
And so anyways, you guys, this is a really good treat to have Colton on here. He's very raw in who he is. And so what are we going to learn about today? What are we going to be talking about?
We can dive into whatever it is you guys would like. I know we can talk about team building. I know from the time that you and I met, obviously the team has definitely started to grow, and I know yours has as well. So
yeah.
Really, we can dive into that if you'd like, or we can dive into anything.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about, I think it's important for people to know like your journey with where you are. I think it's important for people to see like, how in the world did he get from A to B? Because I think that really gives hope for people. So maybe start with that, and then we can go into a little bit more around team building.
Yeah. So I actually started, and you kind of broke up there. Did you say you wanted to go back from kind of the beginning and where we started?
Yeah.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I was having some audio issues as well. I started my career out in Las Vegas, and it was 2008. I was 16 years old. I just had my daughter, and I didn't really want to get into real estate that much. I just didn't have many other choices, because when you're from Vegas, you're either a cocktail server, you deal cards, or you work at the nightclubs, and it's like, obviously none of those were any type of lifestyle that I wanted. So real estate was really the only thing that was an option. So started out there and found my niche in short sales, because it was 2008. Everything had plummeted. And it was like that day when Jordan Belfort and Wolf of Wall Street walks into the new stock exchange the day that he gets licensed, and it all shuts down. And that's what it felt like when I got in. I was super excited to start selling real estate. And everybody, as I was walking in, said, "Good luck, kid. This industry sucks. It's going to eat you alive. There's nothing going on right now." And they weren't wrong. It was definitely a huge struggle to get in. My first deal that I ever did took me 7.5 months to negotiate the approval on the short sale. And when I got my check, or actually my invoice, the broker said I owed like $37. And I was like, I'm sorry. What do you mean I owe money? And they said, well, the short sale negotiator fee was $1,000, and it was a $27,000 condo. So I actually ended up owing money on my very first deal. So I went to my team lead at that time, and I was like, "Hey man, I've been working my ass off for 7 months now, and I owe money on my first deal. Like, this isn't going to work." So I was like, "Let me start negotiating the short sales, and I'll start running those. I got to start making some money." So started doing short sales, and obviously out there in Vegas, that was a huge thing. We ended up scaling that from we were doing like 6 of those a year, to the first year we did 150. Then the next year we did 300. And the year that I decided to leave Las Vegas, we did 412 transactions. And the reason that I wanted to leave is those 400 and something transactions equated out to like $10 million in volume, because the sales prices were so low. So that's what attracted me to Orange County. Came down to Orange County, and I was young and dumb, and I was like, it's going to be so easy for me to go into Orange County and just start selling 400 houses a year there again. And moved out to Orange County. Definitely was not an easy thing. I didn't realize, one, how much more competitive that market is, two, how expensive it was in California, and three, how great your competition was. Like, it was a totally different caliber of what we were used to. So definitely went through a big struggle. Almost had to go home multiple times, but just knew something was about to pop. And thankfully we got our first couple deals in, and from there we scaled to like 37 pretty quickly, then to 50, and then our growth continued from there. So started out in Vegas.
Started in Vegas. Okay. And so now you are what? Describe what your team looks like right now.
Yeah, so 1.5 years ago, I think that was close to when you and I met. We were a team of 5, 6, and now we are a team of 40. We had an assistant, and now we have a director of sales. We have a full-time integrator. We have an ISA department. And my integrator, she's kind of my director of operations. And now we've got about 35 agents and a couple VAs.
Okay. And what's your vision? Like, where you want to go with everything?
I know I should have an answer for that. We've been able to grow by 100% for the last 4 years in a row, and I want to see how many years we can do that. So our goal is just, I guess that's the goal, keep growing by 100%. I said we can do it for 7 years, so we'll see if we can in this changing market. But our thing has just been, we were scared to grow a big team, because I thought in growing a big team, like I loved my little 4 to 5 agents when we had them, because it was just easy and the culture was great, and we would go out together and we'd have dinner together and we would work together, and it was just easy to get that amount of people into production, following a routine that of course is going to be conducive for everybody's success. But then as we started becoming busier, we secured some lead partnerships that started demanding that we grew the team. And we got really nervous, and we almost did, because I was like, there's no way we'll be able to maintain this culture with a big team. And there's no way, like, it's just going to change it and we're not going to enjoy it. And my director of sales even came to me at one point and he was like, hey man, this is going to be something completely different than what we discussed when I joined on here. And I was like, just bear with me. I promise you it's going to work. We won't let it break. And fortunately, honestly, the bigger the team has got, we've just been very careful with the people that we bring on and make sure that they add to the culture and they don't take from it. And we've actually, in my opinion, the culture's gotten even better and stronger since we started growing the team.
Okay.
Hey, Colton, can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
There
I
he
hear
is.
Sorry, I'm late. I'm coming to you live from a distillery barrel room.
I think Jordan slept there last night, and that's where he woke up. That's the truth, right, Jordan?
I'm speaking at an event in this distillery, not in the barrel room, obviously, but they have like this big room, and it's right after this, and then there's like a snowstorm, and I was like, I was like, do you guys have a quiet place? They're like, yeah, the barrel room. It's freezing in here, by the way.
Oh, good.
Anyway, good to be with you guys. Colton, I obviously know you pretty well and got to watch your business grow alongside mine. Remind me real quick, what were your production numbers last year? I just had a couple questions.
Yeah, so last year we did 150.
And how many agents do you have? 150 million or 150 units?
We did 100. It literally, yeah. Our average sales price is like $1,025,000.
And we all hate you.
But there's literally, like, I think the stat for our agent to population ratio is we have one agent for every 6 people.
Yeah, it's intense down here.
It's wild.
Yeah.
How many agents?
In Orange County, there's like 60.
No, on your team.
Oh, got it. Yeah, so now we're up to 35.
35. So he's pretty similar to you, Jordan, right now, right? You I think you guys are rolling somewhat close to each other on numbers.
Just foot on the gas pedal.
How many other people that are on have a team in this realm? Just I'm trying to get a lay of the land of our audience too that we have on here. Like, does anybody else roll in this wonderful land of mega? Does anybody want to get there?
Go ahead.
What were you saying, Jordan? Go ahead.
I would just say one of the most surprising lessons that I've learned recently, because we got into 2022, we upped our staff, we had a slow hiring process, and all of a sudden we found we had too many staff and not enough agents, and we tweaked some things and we started just saying yes to more agents, but really holding them more accountable. And what's happening is our sales are like flying through the roof all of a sudden because we're adding people, but we're holding them much more accountable. And I used to be scared of just, protecting the culture and not wanting more people. But what I'm realizing is that the new people that are showing up are motivating the people that are kind of stagnant. And it's kind of helping the sales go north, which is great.
We found the exact same thing. It's pressure from the bottom up. And it's like because we always have it when you have your kind of what I call the OGs, they get comfortable. And obviously what got them to where they're at today isn't what got them to where they are. Like they're not doing today what they did back then. And one of the things that's been fun is anytime we bring in new talent, especially when we get like a really good guy or girl in there that just absolutely crushes it. You see the newbies, all of a sudden their call volume picks up by 60% or their conversation volume picks up by 35%. And it's cool when you put that pressure from the bottom up. And it's nice because I felt held hostage to my team for the longest time. Just because we would pause people and it's like, here's what you have to do. And if you don't do this, this, and this, then you haven't earned a lead for the next week. And we would try to pause people on leads. And that worked when we were really small. But as we scaled, it's like trying to keep a bunch of puppies on a blanket, getting all those people. And then it's like now tracking all those things and all the 0 inboxes and the 0 messages. And did they complete all their follow-ups? And are they updating their notes? And like, it just becomes such a difficult thing to babysit at scale. The nice thing is, as the team has gotten bigger, we've been able to use performance as the on and off button, which is really the only thing that matters. And we've been able to hold people accountable to minimum conversion rates, and we've been able to hold people accountable to, we still do the 0 inbox and 0 tasks. But one of the biggest struggles that we had is like, all right, now that you have all these people, how do you get all of these people to do the things that you know they need to do in order to be successful? And I think that's where a lot of mega teams start to struggle. Is we trying to scale that, 1, the onboarding, 2, the education, 3, the reinforcement training that's constantly necessary in order for us to continue with success. Because we always think if we teach it to them once, they're going to know exactly what to do, and they're going to do it exactly like I tell them to do it. And then all of a sudden you, by accident, see what they're doing and they're processing like, hey, this is polar opposite of what we taught you. And it's like, okay, this is our fault, because not only do we have to train them on how to do it, and this is where I use Eric Katz's training method, and it's the best. It's you watch me, I watch you, then you go do once you've proven yourself. And it's like when we do that, what in the world is that? Oh, was that me?
I don't know.
That was creepy. I just heard whispering in my ears. But yeah, being able to scale it.
Something else, Colton.
Yeah,
what are you two playing footsies with right now? What's going on?
That's the voices in my head.
The voices in his head.
Hey,
But yeah,
I have a question. If I could jump in.
yeah. Please.
Oh, I love you guys jump in anytime. Like pick Colton's head.
Yeah. So Colton, Jordan and I, we're bringing in a director of sales starting next week. And I hear, agent accountability here as you scaled. 2 questions. 1, at what point did you hire in that director of sales person? And 2, like, what does their day-to-day look like when you said, holding agents accountable looks different today with a team of 30 agents versus 6 agents? Can you kind of speak to that?
Yeah, and when I say it's different, it's so easy to check 4 people, and it's so easy to check 6 people. But once you start getting to 10 to 15 to 20 to 25 to 30, and it's like by year's end, we'll probably have somewhere around 60 to 65 agents. So it's like, how do we motivate those people? How do we get those people to do what they're supposed to do? 1, the director of sales was necessary, honestly, way before we got him. He was necessary probably at like 10 to 12 agents, and we didn't get him until we were probably at 20 to 25. He's exceptional because he is able to focus, like he's way more nurturing than I am. I am not a nurturing type, so they try to keep me out of those frustrating conversations because it will change the tone dramatically if I'm the one that handles it versus he. One thing that we found for like agent accountability is because it's one thing to tell them what to do, but they just don't do it. And it's like, hey guys, here's your minimum calls that you got to make. Here's this, here's that, here's this. You guys should be holding X amount of open houses and da-da-da-da-da. And they just don't do it. Or you'll notice it's only going to be maybe 7 to 10% of the agents who are actually implementing the process that you've laid out for them. The one thing that we found is we run 30-day sprints in group competitions, and we reward those competitions on a weekly basis. And it's a really great way to control output, because a lot of people run like 60-day competitions, 90-day competitions, and it starts strong. But then by the 2nd to 3rd week, just like anything else, the output that they're putting really starts to diminish. So where we started having a lot more success is 1, now in the onboarding, we let people know like competitions are part of our DNA. So if you're the type of person that sees people beating you, if you're the type of person that gets discouraged, if you're the type of person that gets frustrated, if you're the type of person who doesn't see their growth as an opportunity for your growth, don't join us, because this is literally part of who we are. It's what we do every single day. And if that doesn't sound exciting to you, this is not going to be a fun place for you to work, because it's what we do every single month. And that really helps weed people out. But we've now, like on day 1 of indoctrination of our onboarding, we talk about the competitions, and we spend almost probably 3 to 4 hours going through the different types of competitions and the output and why this output's so important and blah, 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 blah. So you set the stage and you create the framework for why it is that they're going to have to do what they do. And the one thing that we found by cutting it down to 30-day sprints is it's digestible. And it's like the same reason that doing an annualized goal setting, 12-week year, I love that book more than anything. Annualized goal setting is wildly ineffective because you can't digest the progress because it's just too big of a time. But when you break it down into the monthly basis and you award and you acknowledge on a weekly basis, it keeps that energy alive. They see their progress. They see how quickly they're making progress towards their goals. And then them as a team, like we used to try to set up call nights, and it's like we would have to set the damn thing up like an arcade. We'd have to have drinks and food and everybody, we'd have to make a big event out of it, and you'd get 6 people to show up. And so now
Familiar.
part of now the great, yeah, exactly. Now the great thing is we have the ability to weight whatever we want to see pressure in the business on. So like in our scorecards, there's a point value, and you as the team lead, we have the ability to weight that point value to make sure that the team is going to lean in and pay attention to the areas of the business that we really want to focus on. So one, call night. We made sure to give a big weighted value to call night. Now those mini teams are setting up their own call nights. Now those mini teams are proactively setting up 2 to 3 per week because they know by setting up the call night, each person that attends, they get a bigger point value, which is going to put them ahead for the following week. And like we're making the awards, they're not always huge. Like honestly, sometimes it's a $50 gift card, $100 gift card. We'll throw on a $250 gift card on there. They have to spin a wheel. But it's like each week in the Monday, we really make it an event to celebrate everybody's effort and to celebrate everybody's output. And all of a sudden, it's like all the things we were trying to force people to do, now they're proactively doing it on their own, and they're excited to do it because we gamified it. And we do the same thing. We keep the scoreboard very visual. We've got a huge screen in the main work area. All the competitions are there, and you see the teams come in. They're like, "Shit, the women of Oz, they're smoking us. We got to set up a call night." And it's like that type of competition breeds such a cool environment. And then the reason that we had to start switching the teams is because now you're creating these little cliques, because now you've got these little teams that are competing against each other. So you shake up the tree and you make them all fall back out, and then we re-put them back in with the group. So now within 3 to 4 months, you will be in a group with almost everybody in the company for at least a month, and you'll start learning about their kids, and you start learning about their family life, and you start learning about who they are as actual people. And then all of a sudden you saw the culture and the support of the team and the accountability, it kind of got put on autopilot. Now, granted, there's people who do not do it. And it's like for that, it's our job to then weed that person out and get them out, because it just takes one to ruin an entire group. But like those competitions have honestly been a game changer for us.
So Colton, I have a question for you. I'm with DJ Sheridan's team here in Prescott, Arizona, and we're looking to expand our team as well. And my biggest question for you, and maybe you've kind of touched on a little bit, so I apologize if it's a little repetitive here, but as you're growing, what pains did you have? I mean, did you try and set really staff in place? I know like staff in place to prep you for these groups, for these competitions. Like, what did that all look like for you, if you don't mind elaborating a bit on that?
Yeah. So honestly, dude, I wish I could say like we're this really thought out, well-planned, well-oiled machine. Like we are an absolute dumpster fire. And like I've always said, we're an airplane that fixes itself while we're in the air. So like, because of growth, like we're really fortunate. We're lucky to have lead partnerships that feed us in a really abundant way. And you have to be careful because there's death by abundance. And it's like you can have agents that start getting really, really spoiled with the type of opportunities, and getting their motivation to step is always a challenge. So it's like pain points for us. The biggest ones were one, like how do we automate all the BS that is taking so much time? It's like, because with all these new agents and all these new people, there's so many questions. And what we ended up doing is just recording a Loom video. So we created a communication protocol, because now we have to protect our mentors. Now we have to protect our director of sales. Now I need to protect my director of operations, because their time is being absorbed every single day by knocking on the door. Hey, do you got a minute? And there's only so many got a minutes in a day. So one, we created a communication protocol, and it's like, hey, number one, and we build this into the indoctrination day. Like we spend an entire day solely on indoctrination. We don't go into systems. We don't go into lead conversion. We don't go into people. We don't go into anything. We go into people, sorry. We introduce them to each of the key people. We introduce them to the lender. but we really focus on like what the core values are of the team, what's expected of the team, what we expect from them, like what their expectations of us should be. And that communication protocol is one, be resourceful. Your mentor, your director of sales, the director of operations, me as the team lead, like I'm not your Google. So you need to be resourceful. Don't ask us system questions about the CRM because there's a help center in the CRM. And if you can't figure it out there, call the CRM and get whatever question or problem that you're having figured out. If you can't connect your email, don't come to us because you can't connect your email. You need to be resourceful and you need to identify the solution to that problem. Now, in the event that Googling it does not, and we call it FitFo and it's it's called figure it the F out. But as we got bigger, we're like, we should probably clean that up and change it from figure it the F out to Google it. So number one, if they can't figure it out there, then they have to go into the Slack chat. And it's like, because the team can answer damn near 98% of the questions. So it's like, one, Google it. Two, ask in the Slack chat. And if you can't get your answer addressed there, then you can go to your mentor. And if your mentor is unavailable, then you can go to the director of sales. And if the director of sales is unavailable, and only then you can call me and you can talk to me. And it's like, I was getting bombarded every single day with all these questions and you just don't have enough time in the day to address them all. So that communication protocol, and then, because it's one thing to create it, now you got to make everybody hold it accountable, because then they were going to the director of sales. And instead of him, because he's just such a good guy and he wants to help everybody. And he was like, hey, instead of making them come to him with a solution to the problem they have, he would just answer it for them and they would bypass all the other steps. So we had a lot of success once we finally got a hold of our team and said, guys, for the team and the integrity of our process, you have to hold this process accountable. And the only way you're going to do that, stop answering their questions, because if you train them to be dependent, they're going to be dependent. If you make them come to you with a solution, they'll be resourceful and they'll come to you with the solution. And it may be wrong, but the majority of the time, they're smart people, they get it right. So the communication protocol, that was one of our biggest pain points. Two, when you transition and get out of production, it's really easy to not realize that your team's not profitable if you run your P&L the wrong way. And it's like, I didn't realize when we started growing the team and I got out of production, how much of my team's profit was my production. And then all of a sudden, when I killed my production, I wasn't paying myself the same way that I did my team agents. So if you did a deal, DJ, if you end up doing a deal, then I'm going to end up paying you your 50% split. If it's a sphere of influence, I'll pay you your 70, the company keeps 30. Well, in my deals, 100% of that was making its way through the P&L, and it was tricking me into thinking that my team was profitable. So when I got out of production, like, one, I wish I would have run my P&L the correct way. And that's one, pay myself a salary, because I will be removing myself from my current position. And when I do that, I need to make sure that it's built into the budget and the P&L doesn't end up taking a hit when I make that switch. But two, when you do production, everybody's muted. So how am I hearing this? Is it me?
And no, I think it's serious.
Is it?
Yeah,
I'm getting.
Somebody's got some.
I'm gonna mute, and maybe it's. Yeah, I have fabricators here today.
No, Siri, you're fine. I was like, I don't know if my Bluetooth is connected because nobody heard the whispering. Like, I can't.
Oh,
crazy.
I'll mute.
Okay.
I'm listening.
I'm so sorry. Okay. So, like running the P&L the right way, paying yourself the exact same way that you pay your agents, like that is so absolutely necessary, because it's the only way for you to run a true P&L that's going to say, are we profitable or are we not? So one, I was running the P&L wrong, and that caused a huge pain point, because then all of a sudden I was having to personally fund the team when I transitioned out of that. And then three, it's like, now, how do you really make sure that the agents are coming into the company, understand the people, understand the systems, understand our processes? So it's like, we really had to shake up our onboarding process. Like, we were doing this 30-day process to where 1 hour a week you would come in and we do this training. It was just super ineffective. It was a very slow start. So what we found a ton of success in is we have a 7-day like deep dive immersive training that I actually am part of. I don't plan on scaling out of this because I really actually enjoy it. And it's just what I like doing. I hate meeting with clients. I hate doing production. I don't like any of that stuff, but I love training agents. So on the fun parts, I handle it. On the contracts and that type of stuff, my director of sales does it. I don't touch that. But we made it for it's a 7-day onboarding period. We start at 8 a.m. and it goes until 2 o'clock every single day for 7 days. And we just do a deep dive on day one's indoctrination, 2, it's a lot of systems, 3, it's like where all these agents start to screw up, because what you got to do with your small team is how do I make sure that everybody is running things effectively? And when you hire a bunch of agents and a bunch of them are new, you forget all of the things that you do, those subtle little nuances, those little things, like instead of just sending somebody up on a drip email campaign, you have to make sure that you're subsidizing that email send and the property alert with a text message, texting it to the client, identifying 3 of the top properties in that list that they need to bring special attention to. And it's like, when you're a new agent, you don't do that. You just rely on the auto campaign. So it's like, we need to make sure that whatever our current version of ability is, we need to make our chapter 10, our agent's chapter 1. And it's like the first time you do an open house, a new agent shows up, they set up 4 signs, they forget to have it syndicated in the MLS to make sure that it's to Zillow. They put on an open house sign-in sheet and they're like, hi guys, if you could please sign in. Nobody fills it out. The people who do fill it out, they end up getting 123 Colton at goscrewyourself.com, 867-5309 is the phone number. And it's like, yeah, they're doing the activity, but we failed to allow them to do it properly. And it's like, there's a standard operating procedure now for everything that we do. If you're going to call into the lead ponds, what do they say? How do they say it? Have they been certified to go in and have access to the lead pond so that they're not going in there stepping all over any conversations that our team has had in the past? So the open house protocol, they must put out 36 signs. They must have it advertised at least 48 hours in advance. They must have an iPad that connects to our YLOPO that they do not have the client fill out, because when we do, our job is to collect the leads. And on average, you can get 1 out of every 15 of those leads to convert. But the only way you're going to get 1 out of every 15 of those leads to convert is if you follow a process that's going to capture accurate information, and 2, have a follow-up plan for that people, because new agents don't get that only 10% of people have an intention to buy or sell within the next 6 months. And then you hear a new buyer's agent come in like, well, it sucked because I only had like 13 sellers. I only had 13 of the neighbors come through. It's like, you mean your future sellers? And you get frustrated. You're like, those are the people that you get excited for, but it was always our fault. It was like, no, the reason they don't know is because we didn't prepare them and we didn't educate them and we didn't create the standard operating procedure for them to follow to ensure that what they are doing is gaining traction quickly and they're going to be successful agents. So we created that standard operating procedure for literally, now we pretty much got everything, how you properly do an open house, the check boxes that have to be checked, the protocols that have to be followed. They go door knock, the 10 houses to the left, the 10 houses to the right, the 10 houses in front of them to invite them to the open house. They know what the menu is going to be, the food that'll be. Like, we just made it a plug and play solution for the agents to be able to be more effective. So then from there, the last pain point, and sorry, I've given you a really long answer to a simple question, but we screwed everything up. So there was a lot of pain points. Is then it's like, there's so much of this training that can be handled through automation. And it's like, you can make a huge mistake, because I see teams doing this and I think it is an absolutely terrible mistake. And they rely on video training to educate their agents. And guys, I promise you, because we did this, we had all of our videos. It's like, cool, go into the university, find the answers to your questions there. And it's like, we'd put them through it and they would complete and they'd check their boxes and they would take the tests, but they weren't learning anything. They weren't actually internalizing it. They weren't becoming masterful in the process. So I think video training is absolutely critical. And I wish I would have done this with 2 agents, 3 agents, 4 agents, because at that time, my time was 10 times more valuable than it is today. Because back then, if I didn't sell houses, there wasn't enough money to operate the team. So like, it was so important. And I wish I would have done it earlier on, because 1, it would have been way easier to scale when we started to grow. So we built a university. We use Kajabi. Some people use Thinkific. Some people use whatever you guys use. It doesn't make any difference. But then you go create the standard operating procedure, the exact steps that they have to follow. You record a video of when you get a new lead. This is what you do. This is how you set up a search. This is how you set up your follow-up plans and your cadences. And it's like you just create a video for everything, because eventually once you get into there, when somebody has a question, you say, hey, go into the university and get the answer. I did, it's not in there. Oh shit, now we got to go record a new video. And it's like you're constantly playing whack-a-mole with your training. And it's like the minute you get a question that's not in that university, you have to have the discipline to go record a Loom video. And it's like, don't waste the time. And this is one thing that I, again, screwed up and what we learned from. It's like, if you're going to help that agent, don't waste the time of teaching them how to do it. You got to stop, be like, hey, go jump on Zoom. I'm going to record this. And then you're going to go answer their question via Zoom. I use Loom for mine. And you're going to show them how to do a Loom video. And what's great about Loom is you don't have to schedule time for you guys to meet. You guys have the ability to just go answer the questions, record it, and then send them the recording, and it's super easy. Then my VA will take that recording and build it into the university. And when they build it into the university, now we have an answer for that question. So it's like, don't answer it for them because you'll forget to go back and build it into the university. Make sure that you're doing it in a way that it's recording it, and you got a process that's going to add it to the university so that question doesn't get asked again.
Hey, Colton, I just wanted to add a couple things real quick on that training process, just for anybody to hear that doesn't have the capacity. Like, it started really simple for me, in that it was just me and another agent. And I had the foresight to understand that I was probably going to have more agents, and these questions were going to come up again. And so I answered every question on a Zoom call. Like, even if they were in my office sitting next to me, I would pull up a Zoom and I would hit record. And then I had my one admin that was paying $20 an hour to, and I'd say, hey, every time I record a Zoom video and it sends you an email, I need you to convert it in YouTube video and put it on Trello. That was her Trello card. And she would organize them into, like, Jordan's talking about contracts section, Jordan's talking about MLS, Jordan's talking about investment property. Like, and it wasn't efficient at all. But later, when I started adding agents, they had questions. So to go watch all the videos, and then if you still have questions, come find me. But it's now we have like a university. Now we have, but it's still, we can be advanced, and it still feels like I was just telling Aaron the other day, I think we have to go through and redo everything.
Yeah.
Because it's just outdated. And I don't know, it always feels like we're still attaching the wings and we're 30,000 feet in the air. And it's felt that way since day one.
Yep.
And yet we're going to do 8 million in GTI this year. So if you're waiting for it to get smooth and easy, wrong business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to remember that we're just literally always building, and we're scrapping what we did before, and we're like, oh, how can we make this look better? And then we make it look better. And then I was just talking to our one of our operations assistants yesterday. Do you remember that, Liv, with Ash?
Yes. No, it made me laugh.
And I was like, hey, we're getting there. I'm like, we're getting closer. We're getting there. And she started laughing. She goes, to where? Like, literally, it never stops, but in my mind, I'm like, we're getting closer to these projects being done. But the reality is then we're going to go back in and we're going to hit another department again. And we're going to say, okay, onboarding, let's go take a look at this again. And how can we make it better? And so we're going to build. And we started with Trello too, Jordan. Like, we had these little Trello boards that I had made. I sat down and just like nerded out, made these Trello boards. And I thought that was like fantastic. And it probably was at the time. Yep. And then all of a sudden, all these, and I just put in the chat, Kajabi, Thinkific, Train You, all those different things came out. And people started doing that. So lo and behold, that's where we go over there. What's next? Yeah. We're going to go find it and we're going to build it.
And I'm pretty sure like the problems just get different. Like my problems today are, there's so many contracts happening. I get a phone call from an agent and I'm like, you did what? Sounds like we're gonna eat the earnest money on this one. Why'd you do that? Like, it's that kind of stuff. Versus when there's a small team, like that kind of stuff would never happen because I was involved in every transaction. But I'm pretty sure Ben Kinney with 500 staff at Place and 180 team leaders and 3,000 agents has different problems than we do, right? Yeah. He's got Goldman Sachs saying, hey, we gave you $100 million. What's going on? Like, that's a different problem.
Yeah. Yep, it's constantly an evolving process. Like it's funny because we look back at a year ago and we're like, holy cow, it's completely unrecognizable. But then we look at it today and it's like, what a dumpster fire this is. We need to fix it. And it's like and I always say, like, there was one week, and I'll never forget this week, because I was like, by 5 o'clock at the end of every day, I was like, I'm done. I can go home. And it was really weird. And I remember I told Holly, my director of operations, I was like, Holly, this is really weird. Like, why am I done? Why is there no stress? Why is there? And then the next week I got completely bombarded and inundated and everything fell apart. And I was like, here we go. All right, now we're back in it.
Yeah. We love when things break, right? Because we're like,
Yeah.
oh, how can we fix this and make it better? Breaking is good. Yeah.
So what questions does anybody have on the call right now for Colton?
I think DJ.
Yeah,
DJ.
I just typed one. When did you know you needed a director of operations? And then would you mind sharing, are they on salary? And if so, how much do you pay them?
The minute you can afford them, you need to hire them. And even when you think you can't afford them, you need to hire them, because the reality of it is, if you are the director of operations, if you don't have a director of operations, which is a really scary place for you to be, because your highest and best use, I promise you, is not integrating systems. And it's like, you can hire the wrong people. And I think one of the most important criteria for somebody who you bring on is, does somebody have the ability to problem solve? And it's like, do they have the ability to see, okay, if we make this change, here's the problems that we're going to run into over the next 6 months. If we change this, now this system's going to break, this system's going to break, this system's going to break, this process won't work, this standard operating procedure won't tie into the next one. And it's like, because you can put somebody in there and they can make an absolute mess with their changes. And it's like, but if you hire the right person, and I'm super lucky to have just been really, like, I've done that my way into the right person. And I didn't want to hire her. She was just a referral through one of my agents. She was expensive. And I was like, I'm going to go for the cheap one. And thank God I stopped, and I was like, you get what you pay for. You know that. Go hire this one. And she is just the right type of person that can see, if we make this change, here's everything that's not going to work. Anytime I go to her, I'm like, hey, we need to do this, this, and this. She's like, I already did it yesterday. She is just like, the right person is so, it's like, it's critical. It's the delta to making all this stuff work, because you can make the wrong hire, and then you'll probably have to make the same mistake that we all do, is you keep the wrong hire for way too long. And then, like, they're not the right person, and they're not the right fit, but you like them and they're sweet and they're such a good culture fit and but they suck at their job, and I'm going to make the decision to fire them very, very slowly. I did this recently with somebody who I absolutely loved. I adored. He was a brother to me, but oh my God, he was not the right person for the job. And what to me felt like I was taking a hammer to him was a shield for the rest of the company. And it's like, I just had to have that shift in mindset of, well, I'm going to be hurting them if I do this. Like, I'm going to be hurting the entire company if I don't. So like, just being faster to fire and just making sure that you do have that right person. I think we all know when we hire them, if you have the right person very, very quickly. And if you start getting that gut feeling that they don't, get rid of them and start over.
What are some of the daily operations of that director of ops?
So Jesus Christ, dude, I don't even know. She has like a daily checklist that auto populates onto monday.com. So it's like general oversight. There's a lot of automations that we built in to where every single day, there's so many areas of the business that have to be paid attention to. It's really easy to forget them. So bulletproofing what needs to be evaluated is super important for us. So each day, and this same way for our ISA, same way for my my transaction coordinator, same way for the director of sales. Each day they go into their monday.com and they will have whatever needs to pop up, auto populate that day, that week, once a month, once a quarter, whatever the review period is, it automatically pops up. But her general thing is she handles all the questions about what do I do here? Like, she literally is a person that runs that company when I'm gone. I've been in Nashville for the last 2 weeks visiting my fiance, and it's like, I can leave and I don't worry. Like, the company's fine. She's running things. I got my director of sales, but she just oversees literally everything. Like, she sets up all the events. She does too much. We just hired her an assistant because she's doing too much, like
low dollar an hour activity that we could just outsource out through a VA. So we've had to really start to protect her time as well.
And what's the pay that you pay your
Yeah,
director?
so she is a $85,000 base, and then I pay her 5% of profits. And the reason I pay her 5% of profits is because her hands are in the P&L. I have a person that puts together, we use simple numbers. Eric Hatch gave me that person. They run an amazing P&L. It's super automated. We get a report generated every single week. Holly's the one that goes through, and like when her pay, honestly, she did it before she was tied into it because she's just the right person. But when her pay is tied into it, she'll find all that fat on the P&L and she'll eliminate it very quickly. So we just wanted to tie her into it because she is the one overseeing it.
Colton, what was the name of that?
Simple numbers.
Simple numbers.
Yeah, Andy Mulholland is the name of the guy who runs that.
Colton,
and it's really cheap. It's really cheap. I think, and when I say cheap, it's like maybe $300 a month or $250 a month, whatever it is. But it's like by the year's end, you have a perfect P&L to hand over to your accountant. And what I was paying my accountant $1,500 an hour to do, and he would take a ton of time just recategorizing and restructuring. It's like it's all done for him. So now my yearly CPA bill dropped substantially because it's literally here it is, and then he just files my returns.
Going back to your team competition and holding agents accountable, are you doing more positive accountability? Are you doing any negative accountability? Can you speak a little bit on that and how you're holding them accountable?
One thing I figured out really quickly is per person productivity is a really difficult thing for you to focus on. And you can, but you're going to be setting yourself up for wild disappointment on a repeated basis. Because even though like you can't make an unmotivated person motivated, you can't make somebody who doesn't want to get out of bed every single day, get out of bed every single day. And you can't make somebody who doesn't want to make their phone calls, make their phone calls. You can spend all your time focusing on those people, but you're putting all your bandwidth on people who don't deserve your attention. And it's like, I really stopped focusing on per person productivity. And because like what Jordan was saying, as you bring new talent into that door, it puts pressure from the bottom up. And your old dogs, the veterans, the ones who are successful, the ones who don't have to do nearly as much output, it's like they can be really destructive. And you have to set the tone of this very early. And we do this in our indoctrination day. It's like, do not watch me today and think that doing what I do today is going to get you to where you want to be tomorrow. It's like, you need to understand that what I do today is wildly different than what I did 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago. It's like the amount of output and the amount of pressure that you have to put on your own business in order to get it to where you want to be. You can't do what I do today because I didn't do this to get to where I'm at. Like if you do what I'm doing today, you won't get to where you want to be tomorrow. So when we have them come in, it's like, don't go watch the newbies. Like we have a time block, 8 o'clock, we role play to 8:30. And then we do some reinforcement training, 8:30 to 9. And then at 9 o'clock, we start time blocking. It's like you now are going to prospect. And prospecting means you're not writing contracts. You're not answering your mom's phone call. You're not talking to your fiance. You're not talking to the kids because you were time blocked for a specific time to do a specific activity that's going to move the needle in your business. And it's like, then at 10 o'clock, you're going to follow up. Now, prospecting and follow up are not the same thing. We can't blur those lines. Prospecting is creating business of tomorrow. Following up is maintaining the business of today. So it's like the newbies need to follow that process, and they need to follow that cadence, and they need to follow that time block, because we know when you're a new agent, you don't understand how important that constant prospecting is. But then once you become good, like Jordan, you don't have to prospect the way that you used to. Sorry, you don't have to prospect the way that you used to, because all of your effort from the past pays you in dividends today. And it's like, we set that tone really early on. It's like, don't watch the top producers and think you can copy them and get to where they're at, because you're going to not do what they did to get where they are. So it's like those new people coming in, it just creates the pressure on them. And it's like, at the end of the day, like we do have a minimum standard, and enough, it's not a lot. It should be more, but honestly, our average price point's $1 million. We require that somebody do at least one deal per quarter. If they don't do one deal per quarter, then they're going to be put on a 60-day performance improvement period.
And if within that performance improvement period, they don't complete this task, and this task, like what they agree to in their performance improvement. If they don't complete those things and they fall off one time, then we remove them from the team and we eliminate that team expense. And it's like, I do think that's a really important step, because all of a sudden you can start growing and realize, shit, we're spending $6,000 in CRMs and CSUs and Slack accounts and email accounts and high notes and all of these things that we're providing as value adds to the team. And it's like, we're paying it for people who have made 3 calls in the last 30 days. We need to get rid of those people.
So Colton, do you have them actually coming in every day? What does that look like? You said 8:30, they're in the office?
Yeah, so we set that tone very early on. It's like, hey, if showing up and treating this like a real job isn't something that entices you, don't join us. Because if you're going to be the person who rolls in at 10, rolls in at 11, and then the next day you're in at 1, it's like, 1, you're not treating it like a real job. So if you're not going to show up for you, I promise you, you will be forced to go show up for somebody else working a 9 to 5, but making minimum wage or a fraction of what you could be making in real estate, had you had the same exact respect that you would if this was a 9 to 5. Because when it's a 9 to 5, I can tell you, like, hey, this is what you have to do. The difference is you'll be doing it at Starbucks, making $18 an hour, as opposed to being able to make a limitless amount of money in real estate. And it's like, if you don't show up for yourself, you're going to be forced to show up for someone else. So we do tell them early on, it's like, my top producers are in the office treating it like a job every single day. There's a ton that don't. And we do make our training available to where Monday is expected, because we're all 1099 and we can't say required. Monday is expected for everybody to be in the office, because that's when we announce new changes. That's when we announce system ads. That's when we announce anything that's important for the company. That's where we make those announcements. And it's like, you have to be in that day, because if you're not, you're going to be that agent that 3 days later isn't following the process, gets flagged by some of our auditing. And you're like, well, when did this change? The day that you missed the Monday meeting and you didn't hear about the change, because we can strap it to their forehead and they'll forget about it. So then we do the daily huddle from Tuesday and on. They only have to show up. They can attend via Zoom to check that right box for eligibility for leads. Because if they're not attending the huddles and if they're not attending the in-person, they'll become ineligible for leads the following week. And the really great thing that you'll figure out is, like, we tiered it. So if you're a bronze agent, if you're a silver agent, a gold agent, a platinum agent, the amount of things that you're expected to attend and do is substantially less than the tier behind you. It's like, bronze agents have the most requirements. They have the most accountability, because they're new agents and they need to get the hell out of bronze. And so it's like, we do put the most accountability on them. And then once they graduate to silver, which it's so funny. Like, we got a lady who sells $40 million in real estate. She had a slow third quarter and she started panicking, thinking that she was going to drop into a gold. She's like, I don't want to be a gold agent. She's like, I have to be a platinum agent. And it's like, it's funny because they obsess over upgrading and graduating. And then when they drop, it's the biggest check to their ego, because now you got a brand new agent who that previous quarter, they sold more houses than you do. And it's like, it just creates that competition that keeps everybody engaged in doing the output that's necessary.
Yeah.
How often are you dropping your agents?
Every night. Oh, quarterly. So it's on a quarterly basis. So if they are in the first 90 days, of course, like, you have somebody join halfway through the quarter, it's kind of a give me period. But after that, they do have an expectation to close at least 1 deal per quarter. And if they don't, then at that point, they're put on a 60-day performance improvement. And if they don't sell a house by then, as much as we love them, as much as they're a culture fit, we don't, because we do want to keep them part of our organization for our brokerage. We do want to keep them there, so we don't just fire them. They just lose access to team leads, they lose access to team systems, and they get moved to a brokerage agent who's part of our team. And it's like, from there, they don't have access to our CRMs or anything else.
Yeah, we just went through making all of those kind of adjustments too. And then, so we only have about 5 minutes left. And Colton, I could just have you on all day, like, going through all this stuff. There's so much that you bring. So thank you.
We screwed everything up.
No, it's good. Is there anything that we here could help you with? Like, is there some sort of a pain point that you have that maybe we could speak on and as a group collectively help you on? Is there anything you're going through right now?
How much time you got?
Just pick one thing. Look, Jordan just disappeared. He's gone.
Yeah, bye, Jordan. Enjoy the
Yeah.
distillery. Yeah, like our biggest pain point right now has just been getting people into production quicker. And it's like how do we get them to do the right things? And we changed our onboarding, and I do think that'll be the solution for it. But it's like getting people to follow. It's like we onboarded, and it's like, then what? And if our agents are asking, well, now what? We've made a mistake. And it's like, I think we need to spell out what that first 30, 60, 90 days is. And I don't have that yet. So if anybody does, I would love to steal that from you.
The 30, 60, 90 day plan, is that what you said?
Yeah, the 30, 60, 90. So it's like they graduate onboarding. Now here's a plan that's going to be held accountable. Here's going to be the meetings that you attend every single week. We're creating the outline now. So if anybody already has that, that would be a huge help.
Colton, what we built is, we have our Hello Week, which is a 3.5 day date, if you will, to decide if the agent likes us and if we like them. And there's an interview. And if they graduate past that, they do 30 days of onboarding. They have to finish onboarding in 30 days. It's actually enough content that it's hard to do. So they have to like really hustle. If they pass onboarding, then they go into a 60-day process. They have 60 days to put something pending. If they don't pend in 60 days, they're out. Obviously we could veto that if we like them and they're just having a bad luck or a deal fell through, but we want them producing within 90 days of when they start onboarding.
Awesome, dude. If you could you please send me what you got on that, any collateral? We're putting it all together now, and it's like when you start adding all these people, like we onboarded 11 agents last month, and it's like there's a big per person expense associated with each of them. And it's like we're making that investment, and as we're scaling this now, it's like, hey, if we lose focus on this, we could end up hurting the P&L, and we could end up hurting the business. So it's like just making sure that we get those people.
So one of the things that we said, because before, like I didn't understand this, but Aaron started to share with me, hey, like this is a lot of work for our staff when we onboard these people. I'm like, why? Like, are we like sitting next to them as they go through each video and answering questions? Like, if our content's bad, then it's bad. If there's something broken in our Thinkific account, then that's our fault. But we're not going to coddle these people, because if we're coddling them through onboarding, they're hosed when they get out there with a client. Yeah. So they have to be able to have the ability to navigate life and onboarding. And because there wasn't onboarding for me. When I signed up with my brokerage, they literally said, there's no training. Good luck. And that was like, that's what they said. And I found my way. And so we've now given them like a massive head start. So we're not going to coddle them with that head start.
Yeah. And I think if you set the framework, and you like the framework, you're installing a structure that's going to keep them intact. And it's like it's so important to create that framework and that outline and those expectations early on, because you can have all this, but if you don't have the onboarding process, it's going to get it actually indoctrinated into them as a belief system. You're going to have a whole lot of agents who don't believe in what it is that you guys are aiming to achieve. And it's like when you change it and you install that structure, it becomes a lot easier.
All right, you guys, we are at time. I put in the chat a link to our drive, and it sounds like I'll reach out to Holly and get your list of like your competition resources, because that sounds awesome, if you don't mind sharing that.
Yep,
and so everybody,
100%.
If you can grab that link that I just put in the chat before we head out, copy that. There's a bunch of different tools in there from other Teams Gone Wild that we've had too. And then Colton, I'm happy to chat with you too about some of the stuff that we're doing. If I had enough time, I could share some of that stuff too, but let's continue to collaborate. You guys can all reach out to all of us anytime too. And we're all here to help you guys get where you need to get. So thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful Wednesday. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Colton. That was awesome.